Hello to you, my very best friend. Welcome to another video. A long while ago, I made a video about how I save money as a fragrance lover, and it did surprisingly well. I'm very, very thankful and appreciative to everyone who watched it. It was never my intention to make a part 2 to that video, mostly because I think that that's kind of cheesy, but as I have been brainstorming potential topics, different video ideas floating around in my head, a lot of the smaller ones, though somewhat unrelated, at their core sort of wind up back in that same place, and so I figured why not combine all of these into one video and make 5 more ways that I save money as a fragrance lover. Now, these are abstract concepts. I am not giving you, codes or whatever to save money directly on your purchases. There are a bunch of bigger and better creators who have those things available for you. This is more about how I, as someone who can't afford to spend a whole lot of money, approach the hobby or conduct myself in order to either spend or waste as little money as I possibly can. And hopefully something here clicks with you. We're going to kick this video off with a little bit of a PSA. Number 1, your fragrance will not make people like you. Now, this is not a message for everyone, but there is a part of this community, potentially one of, if not the largest part, who would benefit from asking themselves the question, why do I want to buy a fragrance? Is it because you want to smell good? Or is it because you want to smell good for someone else? If it's the latter, I get it. I was a young man once too. There was a time long ago where I thought that if I sprayed the right fragrance, just the right amount, that the girl of my dreams would walk by and get a whiff, and her head would snap around 180 degrees like The Exorcist just to get a look at me, and she would be hooked. It seems silly to think like that, but it's kind of unavoidable. Perfume is marketed almost exclusively by way of the promise of sex, probably more than any other commodity on the advertising market. It's at the point where I'm sure even condom companies are getting weirded out by us. It might seem like these companies are trying to give you the key to winning over your dream person, but in reality, they are preying on your insecurities in order to separate you from your money. While this hypersexualization of the stinky water is admittedly kind of funny, it is present in every single corner of the community, whether we consciously acknowledge it or not. Not everybody is going to see the ads for these fragrances, but boy did we sure go through a plague of top 10 panty dropper fragrance videos a few months back, and now the popular video format is top 10 compliment getters. Totally not the same thing, wink wink. The reality is that your fragrance will not make people like you. It will not land you the guy or girl or whoever of your dreams. People don't work that way. Fragrance can absolutely be a tool used in attraction, but it is only slightly more important than wearing the right color of socks, which is not unimportant. Always make sure you're wearing the right color of socks. What are you, an asshole? And if that's all you want a fragrance for, as a tool for attraction, the one secret that the fragrance industry doesn't want you to know is that smelling good is really, really easy. And it's cheap too. You can go and buy a 100 ml of Versace's Eros for $90 from a discounter, and you are set for the next couple of years. You don't need to buy a different fragrance for school, a different fragrance for work, a different fragrance for going out, and then night and day variants of all of those, and then different variants of each of those for every single month. The next fragrance you buy will not make you more attractive, nor will the one after that, nor will the one after that, nor will the one after that. Chasing more expensive or obscure fragrances will not change anything. To paraphrase Community, if you spray an expensive fragrance on a turd, all you're gonna get is a slightly more damp turd. If all you care about is attraction, there are so many better and cheaper things that you can spend your money on that will do so much more for you than a fragrance ever could. Again, this is not a message for everyone watching this, but if this sounds like you, just know that once you stop buying things in an attempt to impress other people, you will really come to realize just how much money you were wasting attempting to impress people who ultimately don't care. Speaking of spending money on other people, number 2, temper the hype. I'm not saying to ignore the hype, I'm just saying take it easy. I'm not anti-hype. I actually think hype is fun. I think it's fun to be a part of a community where we all have a shared experience, one that we can all discuss together. But with that said, never feel obligated to take part. Sometimes the current hype beast just isn't for you, and that's okay. Whether it be a predominant note you think you won't like, or it's from a house that you don't really care for, literally whatever reason, there's nothing wrong with not buying into the current hype beast. For me personally, when I think back on all of the fragrance stuff that I have spent money on, the most money that I would consider wasted has been on stuff that I was only really interested in because it was hyped by other people. The first decant order that I ever placed, and unsurprisingly also the biggest and most expensive one, was basically all of the top 10s from a couple of different videos from one big influencer. I cared less about how I thought these fragrances would smell, and was more excited by the reactions that these fragrances got in their videos. To put this into practical terms, my example of a hype fragrance that I have somehow managed to avoid is Baccarat Rouge 540. I have not smelled BR 540. I'd like to, I have nothing against it, but I just haven't. I think I've smelled enough fragrances that are inspired by it or smell similar to it that I have a pretty good idea of what it's going to smell like. I think I'll like it a fair bit, but probably not enough to justify the price of a full bottle, and so the sample will just, I don't know, sit on my shelf forever after, I guess. So is it worth spending the $10 it would cost to get a sample, not counting, of course, the probably $30 worth of shipping to get it to me, just to smell something only for the sake of smelling it? Honestly, maybe once or twice it might be, but if you are consistently drawn in by the hyped fragrance of the week, over time that could amount to hundreds of dollars spent on things that you don't really wind up caring for. Again, I like hype, I think hype is fun, but and this will probably wind up being the running theme of this video, just putting a bit more consideration into your purchasing habits can go a long way. Similarly, number 3, come to terms with the fact that you won't smell everything. Having gone to film school, having worked in the film industry, I have spent my fair share of time with film nerds, and I have heard the words, "What do you mean you haven't seen this movie or TV show?" so many times that it would probably make you sick. My response to this has become to say that I have seen fewer movies than I haven't seen. There have been so many movies or TV shows released every week for more than 100 years at this point that it would be pretty much impossible to watch all of them. Does that sound familiar? There are so many different houses releasing fragrances every month, every quarter, sometimes larger collections all at once, going back for years and years and years, and it would be insane to try and keep up with all of that, if not downright impossible. Certainly, it would be prohibitively expensive. Even now, I do get caught up in this, I want to smell something from this house over here, but also this house over here is getting hyped up on social media. And then, oh, this house over here that I've been wanting to try for a while is having a big sale, and then, oh, my favorite content creator is hyping up this house. Oh, even if you're one of those very lucky people who happens to live near a good fragrance shop that has a very diverse catalog where you can go and test things out, you might go too far in the opposite direction where you wind up smelling so many things at the same time that they wind up blending together and you're not really giving full consideration to each one. No matter what you do, there will always be more. Always. And you will never be satisfied. But once you realize this, it kind of takes the pressure off. Things that were once must-haves now become kinda wants. More and more, the answer to the question, do I need this, becomes By realizing that there are only so many fragrances that I can realistically spend time with, I have found that I have become much pickier with my money, and the things that I do wind up putting my money towards become that much more special. Again, it's just a small change in approach that really adds up over time. Now for kind of a weird one, and one that I think some people might disagree with, and that's okay, but number 4, ignore luxury houses. I think that we as a community should begin to differentiate between niche and luxury houses. These houses purport to have the highest quality ingredients and to create wonderful and unique fragrances, and I have no doubt that they do, but that's not unique to them. So do other houses that don't try and charge you $300 to thousands of dollars per fragrance. These luxury houses like Parfums de Marly, like Fragrance du Bois, like Creed, like Bois de Seye, like Louis Vuitton, and yes, I'm gonna say it, like Tom Ford, are making you pay extra for the privilege of using their product. They aren't demonstrably different or better than houses that are making things for half the price, but That logo on the front of the bottle don't come cheap. I've actually started smelling more of these types of fragrances recently, and most of them are genuinely very good. But ultimately, they are no different from any other high-quality niche or indie fragrance that is made by other houses with realistic prices. Again, this does come down more to hype. I think that a lot of the hype that these fragrances get comes more from the excitement of their price tag than it does from the quality of the product. It's way cooler to say, yo guys, I got this $1,000 fragrance for you today, than it is to say, yo guys, I got this $150 fragrance for you today. Even though the end products aren't really all that different. Like I just said before, there are so many fragrance houses putting out so much stuff that you can go out and explore. There's really no reason to focus on the most expensive ones if you can't afford them. I swear to God, if I see one more teenager on TikTok talking about how every other teenager needs to go and buy Rogers Elysium, I'm gonna lose my mind. And lastly, and perhaps most importantly, number 5, only buy what you can't live without. Now, these are my fragrance shelves. As you can see, my collection isn't all that crazy or impressive. As I believe I said in the first iteration of this video, I think that it is infinitely more affordable to be a fragrance enthusiast than a fragrance collector. And I kind of wanted to dive a bit more into why. While my collection isn't anything special or impressive, what I do have, and what I am very proud to own, is a collection of bottles that I love so much that I have difficulty choosing between them. When I look at the bottles I've got, every day is a struggle to choose what I want to wear. And so when I am looking at potentially getting a new bottle, the question is not, do I want this or do I need this? Because I'm a liar and the answer to that question will always be yes. The money-saving question for me is, will I ever reach for this over the things that I have now? And that's what puts it into perspective for me. There are lots of great fragrances out there that I really, really like, that I would gladly own if I was a billionaire, and I would get great joy out of wearing them once or twice a year, but I'm not a billionaire, and fragrances are really expensive. And even looking at my collection now, there are a few bottles in here that fit that description. They are 7s, 8s, 9s out of 10 that I really, really like. Fragrances like Spice Bomb Extreme, or like Xerjoff's Commandante, and even Mancera's Black Gold to a lesser extent. And yet, ultimately, I feel that the money that I have spent on those has been wasted, because there are other 10s out of 10s here that I would reach for first. And as a result, they now sit here collecting dust, resigned to being very expensive shelf decorations. If you have a collection that is special to you, a collection that is full of fragrances that you really, really love and have trouble choosing between, why would you add another one that you know you wouldn't choose? Put simply, quality over quantity. Being more selective and realistic about the things that you add will stop you from buying things that you want but ultimately might not need. It's not the most fun way to live life, but well, that's not what this video is about, is it? So, we have made it to the end of the video. I guess this whole video could really just be summed up by the one sentence that I said earlier, that just putting a bit more consideration into your purchasing habits can go a long way. There are discount codes you can use, there are sales that you can take advantage of, but at the end of the day, the thing that will save you the most money is self-restraint. Even if it's just small things like opting out of buying something once every so often, or being more critical of what you are buying. In the long run, changing purchasing habits like these will add up to more savings than any sale could ever give you. So, thank you very, very much for watching. I truly do appreciate it, and I will see you later. Goodbye.